we talk a lot when people want to upgrade about they're wanting to get a bigger home, they're wanting to get a newer home, perhaps a better location. I think we can run through all of those. Yep. But one of the first things, I guess, to decide is, are you actually selling your current home or do you want to keep it? So what are some of the options there? And I guess, what's the advice around that?
Well, firstly, upgrading has for everybody's different. But, you know, if you look at specifically what you've just mentioned, upgrading could mean that you've got an existing property that has created a lot of equity in it, and you might use that property to then leverage into another property, which then is upgrading your financial situation as opposed to upgrading your home. So, and one of our finance people go through that, but that's one of the issues of when you say upgrading, it's got different connotation for different people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, you know, for some of our listeners out there that might be looking to move from their first home to their next home.
Yep.
And typically, you know, often for a lot of people in first home buyers buy a great apartment in a great city location.
Yep.
That's really, I guess, where you might say, look, if you can afford it, that will become a great investment property. You know it well. There's a reason why you bought it, and there's going to be others coming through that are going to definitely want to rent that. And if you can keep it and buy another place.
Another property. And then you get, so that could be, if you're a first homeowner, we've pushed this before, is that instead of trying to buy that quarter acre block we talked about, is get something that is affordable for yourself, because that can then allow you at a later stage to leverage and upgrade into something else, but keep that as an investment property, which then helps you grow your wealth.
Now, I guess for most people out there, unless they find a rich partner, it may not be practical. So they do need to sell to be able to upgrade. So, you know, when we talk about upgrading, what are some of the things that people should be thinking about or looking at, so that, you know, I guess when we think about upgrade, you know, we all think of, or I think of, you know, Pimp My House on MTV, and it's big, it's flashy, it's gold, it's amazing, but that's not practical for most people. So what are some of the things that why they might consider upgrading, and what are they looking for?
Well, again, upgrading can mean different things for different people. So you can get a person that they actually become what we call downsizers. So they've got this beautiful big home.
So we call it upgrading. It's really, it's not kind of downgrading,
and we've used the terminology where you go upsizing, downsizing. It's almost use the key phrase right sizing. So upgrading could be where you've got this beautiful big home, you're an empty nester, you don't need it anymore. That's a wise thing. Then you go, right, I'm upgrading, but I'm actually downsizing, or I'm right sizing into the right property for your particular needs. That's what, when you say upgrading, it means finding the right property for your particular circumstances at that particular time.
So I guess, you know, that's an interesting thought, that, you know, perhaps people, you know, might be looking for, you know, not necessarily a bigger home, but a better located home.
Or a better designed home, or, as you say, a better location home. You might find someone has been living out, the terminology over here is called whoop whoop.
Well, it sticks.
Okay. And they've gone, this is just not good. Let's find something in a better location. It might be smaller, it might be a smaller property or an apartment. However, it's actually upgrading from going from in a crazy place to a far better location. So that even might be going smaller, it doesn't mean that you're actually downgrading.
Yeah. And I guess that's also, you know, when we see people that, you know, going from perhaps, you know, a 1930s, 1940s, 1950s building into a brand new home and getting all the mod cons.
Absolutely.
You know, getting all that technology and the nice marble and so forth that everyone loves.
So it's again coining that phrase, right sizing. So don't be afraid that, oh, I'm going to something smaller means I'm downgrading.
Yep.
It's about finding the right property for you, for your particular circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, what sort of, you know, I know you've got, you know, last count, 25 different kids out there, some of them legitimate, some of them maybe illegitimate. You know, what's the general advice that you can give to all of our listeners, and I guess you've given to your kids over the years, in terms of, you know, finding that right home, whether they be upgrading or they think it's a downgrade or right sizing, whatever they use? What's some of the key things that you can share with our listeners, what you've passed through to your kids?
What we always talk about, always location. So location for someone can be different, but there are a few key things within that are key. close proximity to public transport, close proximity to supermarkets and facilities. So look at what's happening in the area. Scarcity. Okay, so if you bought something or you know it's going to have a scarcity at a certain time, it'll then be a good investment for them to buy in that time so they can get some capital growth out of the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, Greg.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Absolutely.